Are you ready to party? Let's go.
Josh Sattley, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely, dude. How was your drive getting here?
Actually, not bad. 91 going this way time of day is the opposite of traffic. So
I was so worried about that. I really was. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's have to drive for like 2 hours.
I left early.
Yeah, welcome. That was I was like, when you said where you're coming from, I was like, I know exactly what that drive entails. So thank you for enduring that to make it out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Freaking beautiful, man. Well, dude, we want to get right into this. You're going through a lot right now, and you're a fellow firefighter, a brother, and I'm so glad that you responded to my message and wanted to come to this podcast. So people know you work for Beverly Hills Fire Department, right?
Yep.
How long have you been there?
I've been there about 11 years, January.
11 years. Did you work anywhere else?
Yeah, I spent a couple of years down at Sequan, East County, San Diego, as an Indian reservation.
Okay, that's right, because you said you grew up in San Diego, right?
Yeah, North County, Rancho Bernardo.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Holy cow. So you've been at Beverly Hills for 11 years, and right now, so everybody knows, you're going through a very interesting situation. So if you want to fill people in, please go for it.
Okay. So right now, the LA County health mandate came out. People aren't familiar with that. Basically is the COVID vaccine mandate. LA County said that you have to be vaccinated or have one or two carve-outs, which is a religious or medical exemption, by October 1st. So they, long story short, I'm going to go back into it. I'll circle back around, but I'm on leave without pay right now. And they basically bypassed our scaly procedures and our FPBR. There was no due process.
Which is illegal, right?
Yeah. I talked to my attorney and everything I know about the process and everything you guys know. We're entitled to due process. They can't just discipline us without, due cause and everything.
Everybody knows scaly process. Can you explain that? It's pretty much the process of releasing someone who is a full-time firefighter, correct?
Pretty much, yeah. So we're protected under the Firefighter Bill of Rights. So again, if I do anything that warrants disciplinary action, so if I show up to work drunk, then they're going to send me home. They're going to put me on admin leave, paid time off until the investigation is done. I mean, we did have an individual that went through this. It took a long time. I'm sure a lot of departments have this issue.
No, we don't have, bro. We all have,
Like,
baby.
no one's a stranger to these kind
exactly. So I mean,
historical stuff.
you get put off on paid leave, and then they figure it out. Once they get all the facts and do all the investigations, you're entitled to scaly hearing, which is really just a meeting with the city and with an attorney, and they just decide at that point what your punishment's going to be. Does it warrant termination? Does it warrant leave without pay? Does it warrant demotion? It really depends. But I didn't get anything like that. October 1st came. I did not submit my vaccine card to HR, and she sent me an email and said, you're on leave without pay. So that's it.
So, I've been following
Yeah.
a lot of your stuff, since kind of found out through the Firefighters for Freedom. They posted, you did an interview with them.
Yeah.
So I got to dig a little bit and hear your backstory. While you're talking about the process of which you didn't turn in the card, right? And then they said, okay, you're out of here with no money. To what I don't understand still, because we just talked about the scaly process, which is huge. It's like your shield. Right? From anything happening that's crazy out of your control or maybe part of your control, right? And your disciplinary actions associated with it. But it's like, what are they using to keep driving this point forward? That's the part that I don't have any, I don't understand, and again, I want to make this clear, it's not about being vaccinated or not. It's about the choice that you are having and what you're choosing to do to your body, right? The quintessential, my body, my choice thing.
Yeah.
But I'm baffled when they're like, okay, you're gone. I'd be like, okay, well, can you pull up something that says at least you can hold it to it, right?
It seems like it's a massive lawsuit you're going to win. That's what, at least if it wasn't COVID, right?
Yeah.
Right. If it was something else, dude, you would own the hell out of Beverly Hills.
I hope that's the case. I mean, obviously we have attorneys involved with this, but that's a great question. And that's something we've been asking from day one. We first heard about this back in August. Our chief came upstairs. He explains to us, hey, you have to be vaccinated or have one or two carve-outs. It almost seemed discouraging at the time because he's like, hey, well, you have to have, You have to be either a Dutch reformist or a Christian Scientist to even have a religious exemption accepted.
When you say carve-outs, you're talking about the exemptions, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about the exemptions.
Religious and or medical.
Yeah,
Okay.
or you get the vaccine. So if you have one of those three things, you're good. You go back to work, you're tested, you wear a mask, you're not putting anybody at risk, and you continue doing your job.
What were the two religions that you said?
He said Dutch reformist and Christian Scientists.
Just a real quick side note. Has anyone heard of those before?
I have heard of both.
You have, okay.
But you got to understand.
I'm not trying to ask a stupid question.
No,
I
it's
just
not-
I didn't know what they were.
If you would have said, "Oh, I'm Dutch reformist," I would have been like, "You're against your Dutch culture or something," which I happen to be part Dutch, so I was like, "That's interesting. I've never heard."
No,
Anyway.
I've only heard of it because of how I was raised, going to a private school, and what they, we had a religious studies class.
Gotcha.
So you kind of go through all that. That's the only way if I didn't take that, I would have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sound dumb. I was like, that's a very legitimate question. I
felt dumb.
As far as large practicing religious base, where if you're like, okay, you have to be Catholic or Muslim or whatever, like a big one, that would work. But they're like those specific. I thought was very interesting.
It was very odd, and so that conversation was happening. He said, even if you're Catholic, the Pope's good with it, so you can't even claim that. But we all, we found out later that none of that was necessarily true at all. But again, we were asking the same question, like, well, what's the criteria? What's the guidelines? Like, are you going to give us any information of how you're going to roll this thing out? And what happens if we don't comply on the 1st? Do you have any answers for us? And the whole month, we still don't have anything in writing. We still don't have any idea of what's happening. Like, they're just really just doing whatever.
So the city's flying by the seam of their pants right now. They don't know what they're doing.
Nothing.
They're pretty much trying to go along with what this current administration and our federal government's doing, correct?
Yeah, that's what it
sounds
seems.
like,
That's
right?
exactly what it seems like, because there's no rhyme or reason to what they're doing.
I envision like the Wizard of Oz scene. It's like HR is like the person who relays to the wizard who's behind the thing. That's a big face, but you find out it's just somebody just scrambling in the back. You know what I mean? They're like, hey, we got to pick a religious exemption. They're like, Dutch reformist and this. You know what I mean? They could have been like Scientologists and this. And it's not knocking anyone. It's just, you know what I mean? Like, why? Why? And obviously, it seems clear from at least my perspective is that they don't know how to handle it, but they're trying to run with it.
Agreed. And they're making up all their own rules as they go since the beginning.
Which is complete bullshit.
Yeah,
It's absolutely bullshit.
I agree.
You can't do that, man. I mean, we've talked about it on here. It comes down to, right, freedom of choice, right? My body, my choice, right? People
agreed.
put up make a big deal about the abortion thing, right? And stuff that's passed in Texas where now they can't get an abortion, right? And people are saying, well, it's their body, their choice for the females. Okay, well, if we're going to push that, you need to stand by that 100%. If I don't want to put a vaccine in my body, it's my body, my choice, right? So I always think of that. I'm like, well, where are all those people that are fighting for that? What happened to my body, my choice when the vaccine came out?
I feel like kind of societal times are like one outs the other, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a great example. How do we talk about this one?
It's a touchy one.
No, but I mean, like, okay, because yes, right. So if you had to say there was a political stance that supported my body, my choice, it would have been much more in alliance with the current administration at the moment, right? And that was a big deal, and it's been a big deal for years, right? Things about Roe v. Wade get brought up. What just happened in Texas was a big deal because now they limited the term of abortion to 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. So that means you got to be really on top of yourself to get that out if you don't want that. I'm not saying I support that. I'm just saying that, it's what the rule is now over there, right? But there's always upheaval about that. And then now, this is for everyone, when now we're starting, not just the federal government, but from the top down, larger organizations, city governments, things like that, you're getting a mandate push to do something, to inject something into your body, right? I mean, it sounds simple, like when we're talking about it. I feel like this is just crazy, but it just keeps continuously growing.
But we're talking about something that hasn't even been tested. Like, usually for these drugs to be passed, right? It's years of studies and testing.
Yeah.
I just took this research class I have to do because I'm a part of this cancer study. And for me to be able to see, the study and the participants that are in here, I have to get this research certification. It's pretty much HIPAA times like 1,000, right? And you have to tell them what it is, why we're doing it, what the complications could be, how we're documenting all this, and we're going to follow you for 5 years. So to put out something we're going to put into our body that I would say, 6 months, maybe? I don't even know if they even tested. And there's, okay, I put it in, you're good. I don't know about that. I mean, I would say we're all paramedics in here, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, we know the drugs that we're pushing in, the indications, contraindications, and all that, right? It seems kind of like they don't really know. We're like, well, you know, we think this is going to work, so we're just going to push it. You guys are good to go. It's like, well, wait a minute. I want to know what the hell you're putting in my body, right? Because you're hearing about people who are getting getting the vaccination. Some are dying. Some are have lost their children. They're pregnant the first trimester. I've heard many stories on that, and it's pretty sad. And I'm thinking, well, if all this is happening, could it have not happened if you took the time to do the research and the study to make sure this is okay for everyone to put in their body? You know, it's not. And that's where I kind of have that problem with it too. It's like, well, I get that we have a pandemic going on, but you need to slow the hell down right now. You know, we don't want to lose people just because you're so panicked about a pandemic.
Yeah, it's just touchy. The whole subject matter is touchy. You know, it's probably the most not divisive. That's the wrong term. But driving the wedge. Would that be divisive? No.
Yeah, completely divisive.
But driving the wedge between societal groups as a whole. It's basically 50-50.
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's 60-40, but either way, it's a lot. And, you know, it's kind of like what you just said, Tim, is exactly right. There's no long-term study on it, right? So to just say that people are going to lay down and take something without looking into it, having some hesitancy moving forward is crazy to me. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, they're, you know, however you want to deem as threatening, I would say by taking away your job is pretty freaking threatening. You know what I mean? But still, to do that, and then what's the point of it? To drive workforce down, to put stress on areas, you know, I don't want to be too specific here, but on, you know, let's say departments, right, with personnel, and we already have staffing issues, and that's everywhere. You know what I mean? But to keep on pushing, what, to scare everyone into taking it? Because that's what they're doing, you know? So it's like, take that, and I'm not saying take it, and, you know, obviously I hope it does what it's supposed to do. I hope. And I feel like there's enough, you know, there's a lot of things out there that can make you believe either side of it. I don't know. What they're doing, the push part, drives me crazy. And the fact, like, you know, I don't know. Thank you so much for at least coming on and talking about it. I'm so, like, I'm proud of you without even knowing you. You know what I mean? I mean, let's be real here, right? But I would say that you can take you and fit 90% of the people that we work with in your same position. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But you're standing up, dude. And my hat's off to you.
It takes courage,
you know?
It takes a lot of courage. And out of your department, I mean, weren't there more guys that initially stood by your side, right? We're going to walk out?
Yeah. We had, you know, there was 81 sworn members. There was probably close to 30 of us in August.
August of this year, right?
August of this year, yeah. Okay. So just you know, just not long ago. Yeah. We were standing together and we're all trying to figure out how to combat this thing. You know, we're texting each other, we're having these conversations, we're trying to come up with a game plan as far as how how we're going to attack it, how the city's going to, you know, mandate it and all these kinds of things. And we didn't really know what we were going to do. We were talking with Firefighters for Freedom Group, their attorney, Kevin McBride. Okay. And unfortunately, we're just a small group, so he couldn't represent us. So we found out pretty early. We're like, oh, we're completely on our own. You know, like, so wow. How are we going to do this? And we knew about the carve-outs. Well, that's when we started doing more research. Okay, you don't have to be Dutch reformist, and you don't have to be a Christian Scientist to have a religious exemption.
So they lied to you.
Essentially.
Well, there you go.
Hit the bell.
Yeah.
Usually it's for positive. But that's,
I was like, I'll just fact.
Yeah, fact. Oh, yeah. There's been a lot of facts. Yeah, so they completely misled us, and like I said, it was very discouraging. I had a personal conversation. I pulled the chief aside after that meeting, and I talked to him about all this, and it seems like it's very difficult to get an exemption. You can't get a medical exemption. Doctors don't want to write them. You know, they're being scrutinized over this. And then it was just like, yeah, he's just like, hey, you know, sorry, my hands are tied. I don't know what else to do. The county, it's the county's thing. And I'm like, well, yeah, but the county has to mandate it, and they have to enforce it. So how are they going to enforce? Are they going to come in and check? Are they going to make me go home? Like, what is it? He's like, well, no, you know, the city, they want the cities to do that. Okay, well, how are they going to do that? Well, we don't know. We don't know. He said from day one, we don't know, which
This is your fire chief.
This is the fire chief.
Beverly Hills Fire Department.
Yes.
Did he come through the ranks in Beverly Hills, or did he come from outside agency?
He came through the ranks in Beverly Hills, a lot of time in, prevention and all that kinds of stuff.
Did he forget where he came from? Well, that's what it seems like to me.
Well, it sure seemed like that, especially when you see a lot of his actions of late. He's allowing HR to influence his decisions on how guys are operating on the floor. For example, everyone who received an exemption, so there was 25 total submitted.
Okay.
5 of them were medical, and then there was 20 religious. So 6 of those were denied. 5 went out and got. Then there was no rhyme or reason to it. Again,
right?
What criteria are they using? And I put on my Instagram the other day, like part of my video, and I asked him that. Well, what criteria, or do you have case law? What are you guys using to judge this? Oh, we don't have any. Well, we're just talking with you.
Now, I don't know what's again anything about this. I don't want anything to be like, if it's not something we could talk about, let's just move right on. But I saw the post that you were talking about the criteria being met and what qualifies you to have a religious exemption, right? And it sounded like the way you were describing it was they're just there to try to prove that you're lying, right? Like there's no basis of which of questions to show how long have you been, whether, and I never sat on this, so this is all guesses for me. But I just imagine what it's like, how long have you been been a part of this religious space? Do you go to the church? Do you perform, you know what I mean? Like, are you out there supporting, doing PR stuff? You know what I mean? I feel like these are the kind of questions that they're asking because they don't, what else would you ask somebody?
They didn't ask that at all.
What?
They didn't, hit the bell. They didn't ask that at all.
My guy knows.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna slide it over to Jordan. I can take that thing.
Okay, sorry.
It's just completely, we sit down for these interrogations and they just, right off the bat, it's just, well, what about your religion, or your religion, that, prevents you from taking the vaccine? And so we sat down, we had I had an honest discussion with them. For me personally, it was very personal. And for me, it felt like a huge invasion of my privacy. I mean, and everyone leading up to these interrogations, we were like on pins and needles. We knew our jobs were in the balance. Like we were sick. Like I felt like I was going to throw up. In fact, the weeks leading up to this, I've never felt anxiety at the levels I did. I had to go home sick because I had palpitations and shortness of breath. I thought I was having an MI. So I did 12 lead on myself. I'm like, okay, it's just anxiety, but it was real. I had to go home, and
I can't imagine, dude. Oh my God. It
was affecting all of our mental health. All of us were feeling it in the group. Mm-hmm. And it was a really big deal. And like you were saying earlier, it's really divisive. I mean, we have guys at our department that don't see eye to eye with us on that, and that's okay. We're allowed to have our differences. Like I'm all for that. Like I would support them if the shoe was on the other foot.
Right.
And some of them were like, "Oh, I don't know what the big deal is. Just you can just take it." I'm like, "Well, no, it's not. It's not just taking it. You're compromising a part of yourself and your morals and your principles to take it, and it's a big decision to make. And a lot of us have true religious beliefs. Our department's very Christian, and a lot of us have deep-seated religious beliefs. And mine was a lot of prayer and faith-based. But then every other reason that came after that was just a confirmation of prayer to me. But all these other individuals had all their own personal reasons too. So this isn't an easy decision. So those guys that went out that night that were afraid of their job, I mean, I know that was a tough decision for those guys to make.
For sure.
And they're holding it over your head. Yeah, it's a complete threat. They're just trying to scare as many of us as they can to go and get. And that's why I'm sitting in this professional timeout right now. I call it.
So you're saying they literally interrogated you? Or is it like
It felt like an interrogation, okay? They called it an interview, and even in the video you watch it, they're so laid back, like, hey, we're just having a conversation.
Oh,
and I give them
trust them motherfuckers, dude.
Yeah. And it was right after that.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, and then after I answered, she's like, "Hold on, I'm trying to catch up. You speak kind of fast." I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm honestly nervous. This is a very hostile environment, I got to tell you." "Oh, no, we're not trying to create that. This is just a conversation." And they're like smiling and laughing.
It's like the police, dude.
Yeah,
when you get in trouble, "Oh, we're here on your side. Just talk to us. Tell us what happened." You're like, "Oh, well, this is..." "All right, put your hands behind your back." Like, "Wait, what?
What happened?"
I thought we were good.
Like, "Well, I'm sorry, sir. I'm a bit nervous because I know my job is on the line and I'm trying to sell you on something you clearly don't believe what I'm saying."
Yeah, and it's like,
I mean, like,
do I have to cry more? Do I have to show more emotion? Like, what do you want? Like, I don't know what to tell you. I am what I am. You don't know me from Adam. And then Shelly Overham, the head of HR, sitting across the desk on Zoom. She's been sitting at her house this whole time. and she's going to, decide whether I get to keep working or not when we've all been showing up.
Shelly, what's her name?
Overham.
Shelly Overman? Hey, Shelly.
Overham.
You're weak. You're fucking weak. Go to work and do your job. How about that? All right, we'll leave it at that. So how can they sit there? Did you have a union rep when that happened?
We had a association attorney with us. So we had a labor attorney with us, and he objected to all questioning, right? He said he objected to it, and they said, yeah, that's okay. You still have to answer. So we couldn't object to the question. We still had to answer, and we were under the impression, well, if you didn't answer, you're not even going to get a shot at having an exemption accepted, right? And then right after that, they went in and gave us these attestation forms that we had to sign, saying that if we lied, then we'd be, they would pull our exemption, and we could possibly, whatever, they'd take us to court or punish us or discipline us or whatever it would be. It was crazy. And then even that last day, City Councilman John Mirish, on the 30th, we didn't get our results till 8 o'clock that night.
Oh my God.
John Mirish in the BH Weekly put out an article that morning. So he talked with them several days before. The article was released that morning, and in the article he basically says that he was disgusted or disturbed by the amount of exemptions that were submitted because he thinks we're trying to circumvent the order. Then he says that anyone who's submitting a religious exemption is just gaming the system. And
really?
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have I don't think we had a chance in hell from the beginning of this thing of really getting all of them accepted. And I think they have a strategy at hand on what they're doing to basically remove them all. But he thinks we're just gaming the system looking for a hall pass.
So when was it his problem what you believe in your religion? It's none of his fucking business.
It's none of his business.
No, it's none of his business. And whatever you choose, I don't care if you worship Satan, you're a Christian Scientist, Scientology, whatever it is, it's not their problem.
Exactly.
You are free to choose that. And if they discriminate against that, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's your freedom of choice and freedom of religion to do and believe whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's like what we do in the fire service, right? I say this all the time too when we were teaching and doing probationaries. When you get hired here and you sign on the dotted line, it doesn't matter if you are poor and in the street or the richest person on the block, whether you worship Satan or whatever you choose, we're going to serve and treat everyone the same. That's what we're here for. We're here to give life and people a second chance. And then the people that are above you, who are supposed to serve you, are infringing on your religious beliefs. It's wild to me right now what's happening to you guys, and also the LA City and County guys. It's unbelievable. And to get put in perspective, so people know, becoming a firefighter is very difficult. It's not a normal path like any other job. You just get a degree and do it. There's a lot of time of being a volunteer reserve, working in the Forest Service seasonal firefighter, going through fire academies, going through paramedic school. This is all time that it takes for you to sacrifice from your family. Then you got to go test. Then you got to pass that test with hopefully 100%, and hopefully you get an interview. After your interview, you pass that, and you get a good grade, right? Now you got to go to your backgrounds. Now they're going to dig into your life all the way back to high school. And after you get through that, now you got to go through a fire academy. After you get to your fire academy, whether it's 6 weeks to 16 weeks, and you have to pass all your tests every week, all your manipulative or your written tests. Now you got to go into a probation for a year. Probation, you're being graded every day. I mean, the way you breathe and blink. So after you get through all of that, now you're on the floor and working. It's a tremendous uphill battle to become a firefighter. It's not easy. So when someone is threatening your job and putting on the line, and you're not having proper representation, and they're infringing on your religious beliefs and the right for you to put whatever you want in your body, that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. So I could see how you and those other guys feel sick. When you're being interrogated, investigated, all this stuff, all because you're choosing to not put something in your body that you don't want. It's absolutely wild and out of control. It's an overreach of government that should not fucking be there at all.
Agreed. 100%.
Not to mention how many of us, when this happened, did anyone go not show up to work when this started, when the whole COVID response started?
No.
Does anyone out there think that we weren't concerned either? You know what I mean? Like, these are like real questions. And I'm not saying just for the fire department. I'm saying all frontline healthcare workers, first responders, PD, everything. I don't know if PD is associated with healthcare workers. Right. Well, but either way, everybody.
Right. We were the heroes first, right? Nurses, fire, police, right?
Everyone was very supportive of the fact that we were able to put our, feelings aside to serve the greater good of the community. And I'm sure all you guys work with the same people. Everyone's willing to do it. We know what we signed up for. We know the risk. We understand that, right? And you have to make that decision because at the end of the day, you showing up to work is your decision, right? It's also a commitment because we said we would, but it's your decision nonetheless. And everyone I know went to work.
We still showed
we
up.
talked about it. We're like, oh, okay, we got to wear a mask. We got to stay 3 feet. We do enough, and we're doing every single thing that they tell us to do to better
to serve our communities,
to serve the
and
community,
protect us
and the community, right?
Right.
And at no point in the last year, well, a year and a half, but at the year marker, so it's about 6 months ago, this wasn't a thing. The vaccine, there had been talk about it. It was like, oh, you should get it. People get it. But it's like, hey, look, and then everyone doing the jobs that they've been doing, the people who wanted to get vaccinated right away got it. The people who didn't, for whatever reason that may be, whether research, knowledge, religion, whatever, okay, you chose not to do it. But you're still coming to work. You're still risking your life, not just on exposures. I mean, just in the general job happens to be dangerous either way. But you know what I mean? Without a doubt, without a question. We just do it because that's what we do. And now, the overreach, I like that term.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's exactly what it is. They're like, what? Oh, okay, we have the buy-in off this, and now we're going to actually start firing guys and gals for doing this? That's crazy to me. And then it's like, when we start, obviously, unfortunately, you're in the position at the moment, right? And you're versed on a lot of this. But even talking, you asking, like, what statutes are they using? This isn't a private business company where I can say no shoes, no service, no vax, no service, because that's my private business. I own it. I reserve the right to do that. And everyone can bitch about it, but you have the right to do that. But we have rights within government work. And I haven't heard one explanation or one per statute, we can fire you because you refuse to take a vaccine. We don't even have to get into the efficacy. We don't have to get into, is it really FDA approved or not? Just the fact that they're forcing us to do that, because I think one thing is clear is that no one signed a piece of paper saying that you'd be willing to subject yourself to any sort of medical fill in the blank once you get hired. I didn't sign that.
Hell no.
I'm pretty sure no one did. So just, it's nuts. It's crazy. Anyway,